Welcome to the Stylist edition of Matters.
Hello, everyone.
This month's edition is going to cover a topic that we think is very, very important. It involves the consultation, or as some people like to call it, the image profile. I believe at Robert's Salon, they refer to it as a style download.
Ooh.
Our intention is, first of all, to have you think about it and think about renaming it. Many salons have gone with the broad general term of consultation. And if you look around, everyone seems to have a free consultation that they offer about something.
And they think that that's a benefit to the customer's ears, hearing free consultation. But when everyone says it, the customer perceives no differential
Almost
advantage.
becomes generic.
Absolutely.
So that's where we encourage you to rename it. Also, in reality, the image profile is the area of the salon visit, your time with your guest, that sets you up to accomplish everything that you need to do during their visit.
And this not only just applies to hairdressers. Sometimes people think that's the only ones that really need to do it. It applies to every service provider in a one-on-one relationship with a customer.
Absolutely. It's critically important prior to a facial. It's critically important prior to a massage. It's every bit as important for nail technicians to develop their format of questions, which that's really where we'll start. We believe that the guest does not care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. If we were to all go out as industry professionals into a local mall and watch the first grouping of people walk past us, I'm sure that most of you, if you've been doing hair for any amount of time, would know exactly what you wanted to do with that guest. You would know the length and the shape that you'd like to see. You'd know the color and dimension that you'd like to accomplish with that guest. You would know just by looking what the texture of their hair is now and where you'd like to take it. And you would probably be able to recommend the proper take-home products for them just from a visual impression of them walking by you. The problem is, if you were to walk up to that guest and say exactly what you were thinking, they would probably look back at you with something less than respect, because it may be the right thing, but it's in the wrong sequence. In the salon, the image profile offers you the proper time and the proper sequence. We say that that's the time to gather information in. It's a time to ask open-ended questions. It's a time to let your guests speak to you and for you to hear them and clarify what it is that you hear during that time. So again, the image profile is all about open-ended questions, and those, quite frankly, are questions that can't be answered with a yes or a no. It makes the guest have to talk back to you. The questions you choose should be things that you have practiced and rehearsed, things that you're very comfortable with, things that come off very conversational for you. Many times we're asked, is there a different image profile for a new guest versus a returning guest? And the answer is yes, there is. It's slightly different because there are things that we need to know about a first-time guest that we don't need to know over and over and over and over again. So with that in mind, the thing that I'd like to have you think about is, what are we doing currently? I'd kind of like to have you stop the audio and write a list of the questions that you ask on a regular basis to your guests. So take a moment right now and please put the CD on pause and then come back to us. Welcome back. Was that an easy or difficult exercise for you? Many times we find that when you are forced to list something that you almost do on autopilot. This is something that you do in 30 to 60 minute increments every day that you're in the salon. So to stop and actually write it down is sometimes a challenge. Maybe it came easy to you. If it did, that's wonderful. We're going to help you to think about this image profile in a little bit different way than you have before.
We could have also asked them to extend the exercise in 2 columns. One with established guests. What's your image profile with established customers? And then, what is your image profile? Dialogue with new customers. And those are completely different as well, which we're going to address too.
Sure. You may wind up at the end of this CD, and after having adopted some of the dialogue that we're going to suggest throughout, find yourself with a long-time guest, someone that you've been seeing and cutting their hair or servicing them for 5, 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden, they're going to look at you through the mirror and say, oh, my God, what happened to you?
They'll think you had 5 heads.
Sure, it's just me. I've been coming to you forever. Just do what you did last time. And there's a great opportunity to reframe your relationship with them at that point.
Oh, that's perfect.
So glad that they enjoy coming to you and that they trust you to that level, that they would just let you go about your work. However, there's a great opportunity to slow down, look at them and say, I want to make sure that I never take you, my friend and my guest, for granted. There's some very specific things that I need to know each visit from you that'll help me to be successful, that'll help me to provide a salon experience, and you the added confidence that comes from looking and feeling your best. If I ask these questions now, I believe that we can continue the best kind of relationship.
As your service provider, I'm responsible for. So therefore, these questions I ask are in place to make sure I'm hitting all the key elements that you're looking for me and from the salon.
Make no mistake, in the beginning, you will probably be awkward with your words. And I know we've talked about that in previous sessions. But part of this challenge of raising your service level to the next level is that we have to be willing to be awkward with our words as we were once awkward with our hands. It's so important to get used to that. If you're not finding yourself awkward with your words, or your hands for that matter, we're probably in an autopilot mode. We're probably just going to work and making the donuts. And those are times when we sit with great hairdressers and they talk about being burned out. You get burned out when you're just doing same old, same old. When you find yourself with that little edge or that little bit of nervousness or tripping over your words at times, being awkward with a guest, trying to remember, what do I do next? That's when you're growing. And that's when this business stays so dynamic and so exciting. So today we're going to talk about some of those circumstances that happen during the image profile. Again, refer throughout, if you'd like, to your questions. We're not saying discard those questions. Some of them I'm sure we'll cover because they're just things you need to know. They're the right questions. Some of these may stretch you in a new way. So with that, the other thing I'd like to kind of put an asterisk on this with is that the proper image profile doesn't mean that you spend 30 minutes in conversation or 15 minutes in conversation.
I'm glad you brought that up because most people think when they start to hear us speak that there is no time for this kind of dialogue exchange.
Mm-hmm. And really there is. I mean, if you think back to the first foil highlight that you ever did, perhaps it was in beauty school on a mannequin, and you may have spent all afternoon on that. The first time you did it on a real live customer, you may have spent hours on that foil highlighting. Just because you spent that much time on it doesn't mean it was the best foil highlight you ever did. It has nothing to do with the amount of time you spend on it. It has to do with the quality of the time that you spend on it. And that's what we're really encouraging here. Not to have so much time that you're off schedule, but you need the right information to set you up to be successful during the guest visit. And so with that, why don't we delve into what we feel on an image profile. Are you
Great.
ready?
Yes.
This will be an image profile with a new guest. So we've brought the guest back to our chair. We've met them, we've introduced ourselves, and we've had just that little bit of small talk as we walk back to the chair. How did you find our salon? Perhaps talk a little bit about the person that referred them or brought them to you. As you have the guest set in your chair, it's now time to be totally focused on them.
Well, and I think, let's give them specifics. We can say, why did you choose our salon? And then, why did you choose me? And I would find out at that point if they're a referral or you were recommended by the front desk staff, because I didn't know the staff's reputation individually, but I heard about the salon's reputation.
At times, too, Terry, it could also be a new guest to them, but a returning salon guest.
Yes, it could be.
So perhaps they've been serviced by someone else in the salon already. So now, as we have sat the guest down in our chair, we would begin the conversation with, take me through on a daily basis what you do with your hair. Basically, what we're asking in this question is we want to know their regimen. We want to know, for example, are they shampooing and conditioning daily? Are they blow drying daily? Are they using flat irons or curling irons? Are they using hot rollers, or are they letting their hair air dry? What on a daily basis are they doing with their hair?
And we need to say that. Please include washing and conditioning and tools and product usage, what types of products. Doesn't have to be brand specific. You just want to know, is it gel, is it mousses, are there volumizing sprays? What are they doing every day?
Do they prefer a leave-in conditioner to a rinse out?
Yes.
We want to know those types of things. And I'm glad you brought that up, Terry, that we don't want to know brand names, because we really don't. And some of you may be saying, hey, wait a minute, I want to know brand names because I want to know if they use professional products, or I want to know if they're using my product or if they're using a grocery store product. Well, first of all, we know that every one of your guests buys hair care products. Every one of them. They just may not buy them yet from you. The reason why we don't want to know a brand name is because it then puts us in a tug-of-war with the guest. Many times if they tell us a brand name, they'll follow it with a question of, is that good? By the time we enter into that conversation, we have to get the guest to admit they made a mistake by buying brand X in order to make the right decision and buy our product. And we really don't want to go there. As a professional, we merely need to know how they care for their hair. Add that with the shape, the length, the texture, the color that you're going to provide for them while they're there, and you will make your professional recommendation at the end of this visit or throughout as you're selecting and using products on them. But we don't need to get into the my shampoo's better than yours conversation. We'll assume our shampoo is better. Our conditioner is better. It's why we use it. We're professionals and we have our hands in hair all day long. So again, we want to know their regimen. What are they doing on a daily basis? Perhaps you've got a guest that shampoos only 2 or 3 times a week, but they're using styling products and they're refreshing their hair throughout the rest of the week. Those are things that we want to know. Another question that we would ask would be about how much time each day do you spend on your hair? And then a follow-up is, does that work for you? If it's a new guest, perhaps they came to you because they were looking for something that was easier, less maintenance, or maybe they were coming to you for a fresh new idea with their look, but they still have only X amount of time to spend each day. And the new look that might sound good to us would take them too much time and be too much maintenance on their end. So it's a good time to find those things out. A word of caution that I would have for you is please remember that this process is information in. Most hairdressers want to jump in and solve the problems right away as soon as they hear them. If someone is saying they don't have the right amount of volume, or if someone's saying they really think that their hair doesn't have the right amount of shine or vibrance or dimension, a lot of times I would see people that would interrupt their image profile to go right to a solution. Oh, we can handle that by doing this.
Or we just got a new product on the shelf last week. It's going to be perfect for you. It's too soon.
It's too soon, again, because they don't care how much we know until they know how much we care about them. So we're going to continue through this process of asking questions, having them speak to us, and then at the end, as we summarize the image profile or the style download and segue or bridge to the next step of the service, that's when we'll clarify. That's when we'll make some of our initial professional recommendations would be at that time. So focused on the questions. The next thing that we would ask is, what's your favorite part of your look? What's your favorite part of your look? Everybody has a favorite part. Or perhaps everybody's significant other or spouse has a favorite part. There might be an area or a particular part of their style or their fashion sense that you could change everything else about them, but don't touch that. We want to know, what's your favorite part?
Oh, they might say, I love being a brunette.
Yeah. So once we've established that, we would say, and what's your least favorite part? Within asking those questions of opposites, you're going to find out the do's and the don'ts. Another question that comes up often early in the style download is, if you could change one thing about your look, what would it be? Some people will ask the question, what are your goals for your hair and your look today? What are your goals in coming to me today? I think there's better ways to ask that question. A lot of times you ask people about their goals and it makes them nervous.
It's too vague, too.
And so by saying, if you could change one thing about your look, what would it be? You'll get that same answer. You'll wind up in the same spot, especially between the last three questions. What's your favorite part? What's your least favorite part? And if you could change one thing, what would it be? You're going to get a feel for why they're there. If you're still uncertain, that's where referring back to the questions of why they're here today. Maybe they saw Mary. Mary's their best friend and they work with her, and they love what you did on Mary. It gives them an opportunity to say what they liked about that particular look and why they're here for that particular look.
One of their main goals to be serviced today might be to accomplish more looks than just one. Mm. But the greatest gift you can give the customer during this time is proof that you're listening to them. Absolutely.
And the best way to do that is to clarify certain points throughout. The proof that you listened is to say, and Mary, what I'm hearing you say is this. What I'm hearing you say is that dimension and shine is very important to you. What I'm hearing you say, that having one length to work with is important to you. Is that correct? It gives them an opportunity to interact with you on those topics. And then move on. We say all the time that we believe that most people go to bed each night hungering for someone to have listened to them and heard what they said. That's part of the relationship between the hairdresser and the guest.
Or the service provider and the guest.
Yes.
Okay.
Additional questions that you could ask at this time would be to say, what was your best salon experience to date? We want to know that because it's important that we make every effort to exceed that.
This isn't about where they went. This is about what they enjoyed. There's a big difference.
Exactly. What they enjoyed, what's important to them. Someone, if they're a new guest, someone other than you trained them to be a guest in a salon.
I mean, they could say, I went to ABC Salon, and we went, ooh, we've heard bad things about them. Unfortunately, we are goo monsters in this industry. We love that kind of chatter. But that's inappropriate with the customer. It's just, there's no good fit.
You know, Terry, I'm glad you brought that up because Zig Ziglar says all the time that when we're slinging mud, we're not doing anything but losing ground. In the book, Selling the Invisible, it talks about the fact that when one industry professional cuts down or says something bad about another industry professional, the guest doesn't think that it's just one person that did bad. They think poorly of the entire industry, the entire profession, because of what we said. They wonder if anybody in that profession can get it right. People generally don't like to hear someone bash another person or another salon or another company. So what's important to realize is that on this day, that guest chose you and selected your salon to be serviced in. And what we want to know from them is what was the best salon experience they've ever had. And again, that will help us to set the bar for what we can do for them today.
Well, let's give an example of what the guest might have said.
Okay.
They may say, my favorite is when I'm not rushed, they start my service on time, that the shampoo is my absolute favorite part, and then I usually fall asleep during the blow dry. Where would you go as a service provider if you heard those things?
I would probably look at you and say, Terry, you're in the right place. Because you'll see as we go through the cleansing process here in the salon that that's one of our house specialties. We're known for that. And perhaps it's why Mary recommended you to us. At the same time, I want to make sure that not only do we meet the expectations that you have of a salon and of a service provider, but that we kind of take you to that new level. So before you leave today, I'm going to check back in and make sure that we have exceeded your expectations. Because everything that I do today is about keeping you as a lifelong guest here in our salon.
Oh, that's terrific.
Okay, so again, it's just a quick way to check in to what they said and go somewhere with it. That as you're saying those words, you're also, you can't be interrupted 12 times by someone. You can't be more interested in the pizza that just was delivered into the back room. If you said you were going to do all of these things for that guest, you've got to be present to them. And I know that all of you are. I know that anyone that's putting in the extra time to study about this industry right now through this audio series really wants to do extraordinary work. And so we commend you for that.
what are some of the other questions you were thinking about?
Some of the other questions were, and it's one of my favorites. I got this one from Stephen Way, who was a Paul Mitchell educator at one time from London on Bond Street. And his favorite consultation or style download question is, when did you feel best about your hair, and did you bring a picture? Many times that people feel best about their look or feel best about their hair when it was done for a special occasion or a special event, and they have captured that event or that occasion in pictures. Because remember, what we do for people is give them the added confidence that comes from looking and feeling their best. People come to us to look and feel their best before important occasions in their life. Those important occasions get photographed. So it's not as much that we want to see the photograph so that we can duplicate the look in that photograph, because many times, you know, that looking back at an old photograph, you say, oh my God, I went out with that hair. I know that that's certainly what I've done as I look back at old pictures of me. We don't want to recreate that look, but we want to recreate the feeling. And that's how you would then segue. When they show you that picture, you say, I'm so glad you shared that with me. I'm so glad that you had that picture. I'm going to make sure that we give you that feeling or better before you leave here today. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Again, everything is forward-focused. Everything is looking at how we can exceed the customer's expectation and thus create a lifelong guest.
Well, let's address something right now. For people that are listening, they're going to think, oh my gosh, I do need 45 extra minutes just for the consultation. We want you to pick and choose the questions that you would feel confident asking your customer, and we want you to know that these questions could be ongoing with your guests. They don't all have to be answered the very first time.
True. What I think is important is to have and rehearse the questions that you find value in, and then use them at the proper time. Much like you are absolutely skilled in how many different pair of shears, how many different tools.
Oh, I thought you were going to say shoes.
And no, well, you are highly skilled in very many pairs of shoes. But our listener here is skilled in the tools of their trade and what they work with. Mm-hmm. They may not use every single one of those tools on every guest. They'll use the appropriate tool for the appropriate look and end result. Same thing with dialogue and with these questions. But we find if you'll rehearse these questions and plan them out and have them in your bag of tricks, so to speak, that you'll be able to access them and resource them at the appropriate time. If you don't, there are so many people in our business that just wing it.
Now, after we ask all these questions, compliment the guest on how well they did providing you with the information you needed.
Sure. And how would you do that, Terry?
I would probably look back and say, is there anything else you would like to add that I may have not have asked? And say, you know what, your answers were specific, they were wonderful, and now I know with what you've told me that I can meet your needs. Let's get started now.
Terrific. I love finishing the style download with let's get started, because it creates momentum. It creates motion, which leads to emotion, which is very important in that salon visit.
So now that I've said let's get started, it's time for me to give my professional recommendation. Based on what I've heard today, this is what I'd like to recommend for your service visit based on the cut that we planned for today. But I'm also going to talk about the future as well.
Well, and Terry, the important part of this is that as you make your professional recommendation, tie it back to what they told you. Because you said this, it could be because you said that you're shampooing 3 days a week and touching your hair up in between, it's important that I give you a look that will allow you to do that. Because of what you said, I'm going to do this. Because of what you said, I'll also make the proper take-home recommendations before you leave today. We will take that into consideration all throughout the visit.
Okay.
The same thing when it comes to length and shape and dimension. Because of what you've told me, this is the dimension, this is the shape, this is the texture that we're going to work with and the length that we're going to work with. Anything that you can be visual with, anything that you can show them versus tell them will help you to enhance the salon experience.
I'm glad you brought that up. This is when Steve and I usually recommend from the platform a taste book. And a taste book is going to be a little difficult to help you understand over the CD, but we'll do our best. What we would recommend is going to Office Max or to any kind of
Staples or
business store like
Office
that,
Depot,
and purchasing a...
It's an artist valise. It's merely kind of an art carrier that has covered pages, black background, and it makes a beautiful, it's a portfolio.
It's an
artist
book.
portfolio.
That's right. And you can purchase them probably for about $25, and they can go very high if you want something that's bound in leather. And it unzips, the whole thing unzips, so you open it up. And what we would recommend is having sections in there. And the sections would take some work on your part, but it would be your individual taste book as a service provider. And this can be done for nails and skincare and any other division of the salon as well. Now, what happens is you now go through magazines and you cut out in magazines every look that you are attracted to as a salon professional. And you cut all of these out and you keep this book current. And the sections would be lengths. So you would have all different pages of lengths, short and sassy, medium length hair, long hair lengths. You could have a section on all updos that you're attracted to and know that you could perform with ease. There would be color sections of blonde, red, brunettes, and everything else. So when you give your recommendation to the customer is now looking at your individual taste book. The beauty of this is for you to have to create one of those with your own work would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and perhaps even more. But the beauty of using all of the retail magazines that are fashion magazines, is all of these photo shoots have been done. And all you have to do is now put those photo works into this book. And now you're delivering your taste to the customer.
And of course, where the photo may come from, a over-the-counter brand or retail brand.
Yeah, just cut the brand off.
Cut the brand off so that that's not seen. What we're really talking about is what looks catch your eye as a beauty professional.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're establishing, the reason Terry calls it a taste book, is you're also kind of tuning into your taste in hair from a length, a shape, a dimension, and a color standpoint. It allows you to be visual with your guest when you're talking about any of those things. It allows them to page through your portfolio and see where you connect with them from a taste standpoint. It also gives you a point of reference. Within any taste book, you're going to find things as a guest pages through it that they're absolutely not attracted to. So again, it's opposites. They're going to turn the page and say, oh, I don't like that at all. And they'll turn the page. That's more what I'm talking about. Now you are tuning into exactly what their taste is and where yours and theirs meshes.
And even in nails, so many times I've heard from nail technicians that customers think they have a different nail bed than they actually do. So having all different shapes of nails and be able to say to customer, see, this is your nail bed. This is what your nail shape looks like. This would be the best shape that I would recommend for your nail type. And because all the ones in the models, these are professional hand models. So not everyone has that kind, but it gives you an idea of what to present to your customers. Also, what's in the taste book is current. These are the colors that are recommended for this season. These are the shapes recommended for this season. These are the colors in hair that are being talked about this season. Makeup, fashion, so much can be added to your taste book.
Well, and again, on the taste book, Terry, I think that to have one is also the commitment to keep one current.
Mm-hmm.
Because every season, that taste book has to change.
Well,
they wouldn't expect.
How many magazines come out monthly?
Exactly. So you have to have a commitment. You also have to have a commitment to having it look proper. Think about the difference of a guest bringing in a picture to you, just a picture that they took, and then a model bringing in their comp card. What looks better, the comp card or the guest's picture?
Or how about going to a restaurant where the menu has been stained with ketchup or something versus being presented a beautiful, fresh, crisp menu?
So if this is implemented well, it is absolutely dynamic, and it's something that will help take you to the next level in communication with your guest.
I also want to add on that is some salons have thought about doing a team guest book. We don't really endorse that.
Well, absolutely.
Because so many of the professionals can have different tastes right in the same salon. All very creative, wonderful, dynamic team with such versatility. However, the taste books need to be personalized.
Absolutely. They need to be personalized because of taste. They need to be personalized because of taking the responsibility of keeping them current. As soon as you had a team that did one taste book, everybody would then keep score on who kept it current, who's making contributions to it, who's messing it up, who let it get color stained, who lost it.
Some of you might be thinking this is a huge investment. You probably get these magazines monthly at your home or buy them at a newsstand already. So really, the investment is really your time. Now, before we end on this, know that you could present it as, this is my taste book, and I would like to talk to you about what I'm thinking about for your hair. And then I'd like you to view things in the taste book and see what you're attracted to. The last thing to say on the taste book is this. Do not make them look like a collage. Keep the pages very crisp and clean because it could get too busy that the customer doesn't know what to look at first. Okay.
I agree. All right. There's actually a couple of areas where we'd use the taste book. During the image profile or the style download, as we're talking about length, shape, dimension, and color, which is kind of the last stages of their time before we actually begin working. The other thing is you could put it back in their hands while you're actually cutting or applying color or doing other things so that you could dream with them about the future. You could find out as they're paging through what they're attracted to in an environment where they have more time.
That's true because this appointment might have been only for a haircut.
And any taste book, any model that's photographed, part of the reason why people are attracted to them is they have hair color in their hair. Any photography model has hair color in their hair. Also, any professional model had a hairdresser that touched their hair before they went into that photography session. Even it might be an over-the-counter brand that they're retailing or that they're advertising for, I can promise you that a professional hairdresser touched them last before they went on camera. And so with that in mind, it gives you a great opportunity to continue to develop your taste, develop your professional acumen, and to communicate that with your guests and have fun. You see, the whole idea of dialogue is that it keeps you in the game. It keeps you focused. It keeps you talking about them, their look, their hair in general, and it keeps us out of talking about some of the things that we'll just fill time with if we're not staying on topic.
And we could also bridge this to fashion. In the taste book, I feel like I keep going back to it, but I love this concept so much. In the taste book, it could have the section in the back that says the 10 things you must buy for this season, what's hot, what's not. Have some fun with your taste book as well.
Exactly. And just like I think Allure does that now, the hots and nots and the top 10 things and the must-haves. You can have your own top 10 things. You can have your own must-haves for the season. They are trusting you with what's 70% of their first impression. That's their look. That's their hair. That's a pretty big trust. It also would encompass what are the must-have products? What are the must-have styling tools? What are the must-have? Maybe it's a favorite pair of sunglasses that you have for the summer season. Maybe it's a particular designer that's come out with a line of bags that's current that you particularly love. You can put those things in there. It's part of what keeps it interesting. Everybody loves fashion and hair and style.
Yes, and women, honey, I just need to tell you, I must remind you, even on this CD, women have to make seasonal purchases. It's necessary.
Sure.
Okay, let's move on.
You know, Terry, that you brought that up. I just want everybody on this, in our listening group, to know that if every woman, in fact, does need to make seasonal purchases,
yes,
then I just want everybody to know you are 100% woman.
Thank you, honey. I'm honored.
And I am worried. Anyway,
let's go. Let's
the
move
last
on.
Now, the last thing about Tastebook that I wanted to say is I can't help but think how many times we've brought up Tastebook over the years, and again, how few times people actually implement that, because it's a great idea, but it does take work and effort.
It's more than a great idea. It's necessary.
It is necessary. And what comes to my mind is, again, it's John Paul's statement that successful people do all the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. And I'd really like to challenge you all to, if that's the one thing that you get from this particular CD,
would be that.
Go after it. Have fun with it. Have it really speak to your taste. And watch what it does to your income. And then add the dialogue to it and really rework your style download or your image profile, and watch how much different your time with your guests is as a result of these things.
What a true definition of meaningful conversations.
Absolutely.
And
Now,
it's time to cleanse.
at the end of this, you've wrapped up. You've now talked about length and shape and dimension and color, and we're ready to begin the service. Some of you will then pass off the guest to a cleansing technician, and some will escort your guest to the lather lounge or wash house yourself.
We like the word cleansing technician, if you haven't noticed already, and we love the lather lounge wash house concept.
Absolutely. If you work with a cleansing technician, or some people call them assistants, some people call them shampoo technicians, I think a cleansing technician just naturally does better work than a shampoo girl, to be honest with you.
Yes.
A professional pass-off begins with an introduction. You want to introduce your guest to the cleansing technician.
Why don't we role play this whole thing? I'll be the cleansing technician.
Okay.
Okay.
And Bud, you'll be my guest.
Bud's in here too.
Yes. Bud, I'd like you to meet Terry.
Can they hear you, Bud? Bud just said hello.
Well, we can't role play with invisible people.
Bud's just the guest. Let's move on.
Okay. So I've just introduced, this will be like a golf commentary. Bud and Terry have just shaken hands, made eye contact, and I'll then return to my dialogue session. Okay. Now, Terry, when you escort Bud to the lather lounge, I'd like you to shampoo Bud twice with this particular product and show Bud the amount that he'll be using at home after his salon visit.
Okay.
I've selected and explain why we've selected this shampoo.
Certainly.
It's based on my conversation, Bud, with you, and you're in great hands with Terry. After that, if you would use one application of the conditioner, leave it for 5 minutes, rinse that out, and then I'll see Bud back at my station.
Terrific.
Bud, you're in great hands.
Right this way, Bud.
Done. So, the important part, again, that doesn't take a lot of time. It's a professional pass-off versus go on back. Go on back, it leaves people to wander through the salon, find their own way, feel like they're not a guest in. You wouldn't just say to a guest in your home that's trying to find anything, where you put their coat, where they get their ice cold water from. You wouldn't just say, go on over and get it. You service a guest, and that's what we're doing in this case. Mm-hmm. And when we extend that guest to another team member, it gives respect to the team member. It lets the team member know they're responsible. How many times have you sent a guest back to the cleansing area and your other team member didn't even know they were on their way back and finished a personal conversation until they recognized that the guest was back there? All of that leaves the guest to come to their own conclusion in your service environment, which 9 times out of 10, when they're left to come to their own conclusion, it's negative. And we've promised a positive experience that goes beyond their wildest expectations. So once we've made that happen, it's just incredible. Now, if you are going back and you are the cleansing technician, what's important is that as you're selecting the products, if it were me, I wouldn't have a shampoo back bar that had every product that I could ever possibly want to use on the shampoo back bar. It would be a clean back bar that as I walked back with Bud, I would select the shampoo and the conditioner, and if there were any other product, just for him, just for that particular guest visit, set that up on the shampoo back bar and explain why I've selected it. At that point then, Bud would sit down in the shampoo chair and I would treat him to the lather lounge experience.
Well, state why. Give the role play of why I'm selecting this shampoo.
You know what? Honestly, I'd like not to do that because it would be brand specific.
Well, maybe it's not brand specific, but shampoo type specific.
Okay. All right. So the example that we would use is that, Bud, what I've selected today is a clarifying shampoo. And it's because you told me that you spend a great deal of time by the pool. You also are using some pretty significant product in your hair on a daily basis. And I want to make sure that I cleanse that thoroughly, and then I'll condition it and treat it as you will at home. And then we'll be able to go on with your visit today. That's fair enough, isn't it?
What I like about that, it's just restating exactly what was discussed during the consultation. Once again, proof that the customer spoke and proof that we listened as a service provider.
So that really is the essence of what we wanted to share from a service standpoint. And the image profile, what we haven't covered yet is, what do we do now with a returning guest?
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
So returning guest, some of the information we still need to know and some we don't. And so returning guest, basically what I would want to do is take me through your experience with your hair since your last appointment.
Also, we can state at that time during the consultation, Mary, I haven't seen you in 8 weeks, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about your hair, but I want you to know that 5 to 6 weeks, based on the style, is probably the most that this hair is going to perform the way you want it to.
Terry, let me back you up there a little bit, and I'm glad that you hit on that, because the conversation from the front of the salon to the styling chair is one of the things that's different with this particular guest.
That's right.
The dialogue that we would use is, have you ever tried to schedule an appointment with me and your first choice not been available? And that's just conversational as we're walking back.
We've done that in other sessions as well.
Yes. And it's really the beginning questions that set you up to reschedule the guest at the end of the visit. But we want to know that right now. And what you're going to hear a lot of times is yes or no. Or you're going to hear, I really needed to be here 2 weeks ago. And we want to take that personally. That's a guest saying that they want to spend more money with us and they can't. So that's what comes out in that. Now we reconnect with them. We can always talk based on the current length and shape of your hair. I need to see you again in 5 weeks or in 4 weeks or in 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. As the professional, we're going to be honest with what we see and what we tell them. We're not going to make it up. Don't wing it. You know how fast hair grows, and you're going to make the right recommendation for when you need to see them.
I mean, I can tell you from my own personal standpoint that I'm a color customer not by choice. Meaning, I'm a color customer by choice, but I certainly don't want to get color as often as I have to. I receive color every 3.5 to 4 weeks based on the amount of unpigmented hair, right? And for someone who would really want me as a customer in their salon, they would have to be very demanding on my time for my hair to look good all the time. I couldn't just call when I had to. I'd have to have that standing appointment in place, because every 3.5, 4 weeks, that's a lot of visits to a salon. I mean, that's 12 times a year, just that. So it couldn't be taken casually with me if you were going to keep me as a customer, because if I didn't get in on time and every visit had to stretch out 2 weeks because you were unavailable, I'd have to go somewhere else, right?
Yes.
So that's critical. Just if they wanted my type, my profile as a customer in their chair, which I think would be a good customer.
Certainly. So in our time at the chair, when we reviewed what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. In other words, what are we on our way to? What things did we talk about that we were moving toward? And review those. Perhaps we talked about putting in several foils or adding some dimension to their color or texture to their hair at this point. Perhaps we talked about helping them to enjoy different services, or perhaps a great conditioning service that we've talked about in the past. This is the time with the returning guest to talk about those things. It's also a time to be grateful that they returned. I think it's always important to say, thank you so much for returning. I really value the time that we have together, and I take my responsibility of being your service provider very seriously.
Also, this is a time to restate and ask, how did the products perform that I recommended to you? And you need to know that. With the computer systems that are in place, with purchase history that's available at your fingertips, you need to state, how did that clarifying shampoo work for you? How did that volumizing spray work for you? You purchased an 8-ounce 4 weeks ago. How much are you using? How much do you have left? I want to know if you're overusing. Please talk to me about your products. And that's really important too. Most people don't take the time to personalize their visits with their customer, even though they've got the information available to them.
Mm-hmm. And that's really in an area where we say, mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you mean it when you made your professional recommendation to people, either for their look or for the take-home product that they should use? If you mean it, you're going to check in on it. You're going to make sure that they're enjoying the product. You're going to make sure that they understand how to use it, because we know that the products we've recommended work. So if they're not enjoying it, it probably means that either we haven't instructed them properly or they're not applying it properly.
If it were me as a service provider, if I really wanted to wow my customer, when I received my customer list for the day, I'd probably get on the computer, show up early for work, which isn't a strength of most service providers in the industry, and write down quickly what products that they purchased the last time they were in.
Well, Terry, actually many computer systems print that right on the daily
daily
schedule.
That's right. And if they didn't, I would also take the time to do that. Some people don't even look at the schedule, Steve.
That's true. But that's all about preparation. That's all about being ready to work and ready to do business.
Right.
And being committed to that guest.
Yes.
So, with a returning guest, if we talked about particularly length or shape, we can check back in on that. Check back in on the take-home product that they recommended. Revisit with them their enjoyment of their salon experience from the previous time. And if there's anything that we could do better, what would it be? If there's anything that we could do to enhance their salon visit today, what would it be?
The last part of it, before they leave today, and this could also be part of the consultation, is I need to know all the important dates that are coming up. Just to remind all of you, women always know the next big dates that are coming up. Men never know. They don't know what weddings are coming up in 6 months, but women know all those important dates. So therefore, we have to make sure that they're on the schedule already so their needs are met for that special look, or especially since they, of course, want to be current for those special dates that are in the future.
Great.
Is that a wrap, Stephen Allen?
I think so.
I do too.
What do you, our listeners, think? Did we give you information that's valuable to you? Does it have a strong takeaway? We hope that as you review this CD, that you'll think about your style download or your image profile differently than you did prior to listening to this CD. Even if all of the information that you use is still all your own and you use nothing from this, if you think about your image profile differently and plan it better and work on it to be the best that you can, that's really the essence of this. It's a key time and a critical time. It's very important with each one of your guests, and it will help you to create a repeat guest, and it'll help you to create a great client base.
I think that when I think about this, I think it's a great opportunity to prove to your customer that you never take them for granted.
Mm-hmm.
That's what those questions do for me. There is warm-up time in every single relationship, and this warm-up time is now specific to what they're trying to accomplish with you, their service provider. So that's nice.
Well, and I think, again, of a phrase that I learned from Zig Ziglar, and he said that from time to time you need to inspect to make sure that your guest gets what they expect.
That's nice.
And I think that this is a time to do that. You can inspect through your questioning, through your time and attention. You've got to be there. I mean, that's one of the important things. In the image profile or style download, you have to be present to that guest when you're asking those questions.
And in a busy, high-volume, paced business with music, dryers, that's not always easy, but it's always noticed. All right, that's a wrap.
All right.
See you next time.
Have a great month.
Bye.
Okay, we've had some afterthoughts, which is kind of one of our favorite things to do. After we've finished recording, we kind of sit around and talk a little bit about the recording that was just done and maybe some things that we need to pay more attention to. The one that I want to pay more attention to is it came up that when I mentioned that if it were me, I would have the back bar clean of product and bring out only the product that I was using with that particular guest at that particular time. I want to make sure that we've connected on that. What our intention is that all of those products would be available in the shampoo area, merely that I would be selecting specifically the products that I'm going to promote, the products that I'm going to professionally recommend for that guest. So they're all there. They're just not all cluttering the back bar area by the shampoo bowl, because many times the shampoo bowl really doesn't tell a story, and many times it really doesn't say anything to the guest at all. And in a lot of cases, people will select just what they can reach or what's close or what has product in it. If I'm going to, with my guests, select the shampoo and the conditioner that are correct for them, and I'm going to be showing them how much they'll use at home, it makes sense that that be what's displayed on the shampoo back bar at that moment. Mm-hmm. And then it changes for the next guest. But all of the product that we would have had there is still available to us. Okay?
My afterthought has to do with the taste book. Now, who's not surprised with that? I guess for the new people, perhaps if I was an owner, I probably wouldn't let you on the floor till your taste book was started or complete. Or also, if there is downtime as you're establishing yourself, that'd be a great time to work on your taste book and perhaps even receive some coaching from your senior teammates on staff. But also, they need to have a taste book or they can't coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, what's your last afterthought?
Well, it's unrelated to our topic, but it's absolutely related to our topic. Terry and I are reading a book right now called The Lamp. You've probably heard us talk about Jim Stovall before. He's one of our current mentors and someone that's been a great teacher to us. In the early pages of The Lamp, he talks about something, and I'm actually going to read this real quickly to you because I think it's important. He says, all of us have these big dreams, and I'm absolutely convinced that they would not have been put inside us if we do not have the capacity to make them come true. So as we live out the days of our lives, the question is never, can we? The question is always, will we? And I think that a lot of what we talked about today falls right into that. It's not can we, but will we? Will you take what you've learned? Will you take that big dream that's inside of you, and will you do it? With that in mind, you may remember that one of Jim Stovall's greatest principles is you change your life when you change your mind. And he has a poem that he ends all of his speeches with that I love. It says here, hold on to your dreams and stand tall, even when those around you would force you to crawl. Hold on to your dreams as a race you must run, even when reality whispers you will never be done. Hold on to your dreams and wait for the miracles to come, because on that miraculous day, your dreams and your reality will merge into one. Thanks for listening today.
Success is all yours.